Well, yeah, I mean, it still sounds fresh after all these years, and it's still relevant. You know what I mean? It is an anti-war song, and it is about coming together. It's about demonstrating that we've normally got more in common between each other than we have the separate dividers. You know what I mean? And that's ultimately what that song is trying to, allude to. And so it's such a great story.
Welcome. We are Neil,
Luke, and Dave.
340-somethings reminiscing on the runners and riders of 90s guitar music.
We look at the bands who soundtracked our youth on both sides of the pond and interview some of our heroes from the bands that defined a generation.
You'll hear about the good, the bad, and the ugly of 90s guitar music.
This podcast is stupid and contagious. Hello, welcome to episode 27, the Stupid and Contagious podcast. Got Keith Mullin from The Farm this week. Nice little interview, that one. Get onto that in a bit. First thing, Luke, why does your face look so fucked?
I think fucked is overstating it. But I got a bit of sunburn somehow, even though it's the winter.
Yeah, how'd you do that?
I don't know. Just it's a bank holiday weekend over here. No, it's
Just
my
your
forehead
cheeks.
as well. It's got like a line across here. It's here.
Oh.
You've been on the sunbed.
Have you? You've been on the sun.
I've just been out in the sun for like two whole days, even though it's kind of cold. Just like the sun on your face just kind of caught me. Yeah.
You've been on one of those sunbeds with those little goggle things, haven't you? Trying to get looking good for the podcast.
Like Donald Trump.
You got me.
Neil, have you got your van?
I have. I picked it up yesterday.
Oh, nice.
He's going to become a nomad.
I am digital nomad.
Yeah. What needs doing to it?
Everything. It's empty. Got to build a house.
Oh, really?
Should be fun. A lot of money, a lot of time, but
You did record the van pickup, right? For your YouTube channel.
I didn't. No,
Yeah.
I didn't record the pickup.
Oh,
Ah,
mate.
failed at the first hurdle. But we can stage the pickup and I can play the garage theme.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Do
I
it.
could wear overalls.
Yeah, we just go down to Berwick Station down the road from you, can't we? The Berwick petrol
Yeah.
station. Ask them if we can use the forecourt for 5 minutes. Right. Yeah, I bought a van. What's everyone else been up to this week?
Reading a lot of books, listening to a lot of records. Good stuff, you know?
How can you read a lot of books in a week?
I've read about 4 books last week.
Fucking hell. That's
Bloody
like
hell.
nearly a
What a
book a
buffet.
day.
So, you know, what better use of your time is there than to read books, man?
Build bands. Yeah.
Build vans is pretty good. Yeah, that's true. Dave, you're in your masturbatorium. You've been spending a lot of time in there,
Built a wardrobe.
in the masturbatorium.
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
Dave's wardrobe, which is, it's done very well. But yeah, it's like just a closed off area in the bedroom. So
In the masturbatorium, you mean?
he's built a masturbatorium within the masturbatorium.
Yeah, right. For a sneaky one. Good on you, man. Good on you.
I'm impressed it took 27 episodes for you to use the word masturbator. Can't even say it.
I think we used it early on, didn't we? Or was that just when we were?
I don't think.
Maybe not. Maybe that's the
He's
first
been
episode.
waiting. He's been waiting.
I just forgot about your secret room until now. It's all gold-plated tissue holder and all of that. It's brilliant in there.
This is all in his mind. He's just seen a nice walk-in larder in our house. And then his imagination has run riot.
You call it what you want, man. You call it what you want. It's a masturbatorium, and that's it. Whatever you want to call it.
Anyway, Keith from The Farm. I had a look in Wikipedia, and they were useless this week. They didn't even give me one sort of label for The Farm, so I can't even give you that.
I mean, well, it's difficult to label because their sound changed so much, right? They were put in with the baggies, indie dance, I guess.
We were too young to go to acid house clubs.
Yeah, that we just missed out on that, didn't we? Just missed out on that. That would have been good.
But you know acid house, right? Did they actually take acid in them?
No.
Yeah.
They can't have done.
Ecstasy.
It
Why?
would have been hideous.
Yeah, and I think they
They had
originally.
like
going out
white
their
gloves
minds.
and like welding masks and shit. Not welding masks, but those kind of masks, didn't they?
Dave's right though. Imagine like 1,000 people off their heads on acid, it would have been a fucking free-for-all.
It just can't work.
Yeah,
No,
it would have been
I
a freak
agree
out.
with
Just-
that. Yeah.
But maybe it started with acid and they went on to ease. I don't know. It's a good question, man. It's a good question.
Let me Google it.
Troubling me for years, that question.
Here we go. I've got the answer. The scene
Cool,
was
quick.
dubbed Acid House after the seething, burbling, acid sound produced by the 303 bass synthesizer and predominantly featured on Chicago
There you
house
go.
records. Nothing to do with the drug.
Right. Nothing to do
There you
with
go.
LSD. Explains a lot.
I also thought, how can there'd be loads of people in a room on acid freaking out? And it'd be a good time. You know. There we go. We've just answered it. I bet there's a lot of people listening that have been thinking the same thing all these years.
Mystery solved.
Yeah, the old M25 rave scene was something else, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
From the interview, we talked about it in the interview, but yeah, that kind of features quite predominantly in their evolution as a band, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
If you are watching this, then please do give it a thumbs up. Leave us a comment below or get an invite. If you're watching it in a premiere, get involved in the chat. Leave us a comment below. Let us know your favourite farm songs, farm memories. Just get a conversation started. If you are listening, then please do rate and review so that we can get this podcast found. Yeah, Luke, tell us a bit about the farm.
Formed in 1983 in Liverpool by Peter Hooton. And according to one thing I read, he said basically he's looking for a musical outlet for his socialist political leanings, basically. So he kind of formed a band with the intention of getting these kind of ideas out into the world. So that's pretty early, right? 1983.
83. What are you doing in 83?
Okay. Dave.
We didn't have a holiday in 83. I remember that.
Do you remember?
I think we went to Romania in 83 when it was still a communist country. My dad said, he used to go out into the sea to like buy stuff. That was like the black market. You had to go out into the sea and like exchange like the money and the goods to buy stuff.
Why the hell did you go there?
I don't know. Not my choice.
I can't remember 83.
So early on, lots of lineup changes. Keith joined the band in 1985, so just a couple of years later. Also, it said that one member, the drummer, died after a police escaping from the police, basically.
Yeah, police chase. I saw that. Yeah, that's pretty tragic.
Yeah, back then, so I saw them described. Their early sound was described as pop-flavored northern soul, which I like that.
Oh,
And he talks about in the interview, they had like a brass section and all of that kind of stuff. And he talks about the ska influence and the northern soul influence in there. So they were doing that stuff. They released a few singles, basically. The first one was in 1984. Released 2 or 3 more up until 89, but nothing going on really. And their sound gradually changed over this time. Again, we won't go into detail because he talks about it really well. But basically, acid house came along and they were influenced by that, like a lot of bands were, right? So until 1990, when everything changed, so 2 massive singles, Groovy Train went in at number 6, and then followed by the timeless classic All Together Now in at number 4, both of them in 1990. Yeah. Interestingly, I was they did a very early version of All Together Now back in '83 on their first Peel session. I've got like the Peel session book. I always check it see if our guests did a session, and they did a few. I'm such a nerd, and so way back then they did a version of that, which I think is on Spotify. That it sounds very different. Very different. It's got like a kind of martial, like military beat kind of thing going on. It's,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
Is it recognisably the same song?
Yeah. But yeah, massive songs, right?
Huge.
Yeah, huge.
Those songs were just there, weren't they? You couldn't really escape them. They were huge songs.
And they still are. All Together Now, it's everywhere. I still hear it, right? It's always on.
Well, I said in another episode, but when I went to the Shine On Festival, that song was a highlight for me. Just sounded great. Timeless classic, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
You know, it's an anti-war song, so it's quite relevant at the moment as well. And it's one of those, isn't it?
They also, we talk about in the interview, but they went to Ibiza in 1990 and they made a documentary for Channel 4 called, what's it called? Chilling? A short film about chilling. Did you watch it?
That's it. No.
Short film about chilling.
I want to watch it.
It's really interesting. It's like 40 minutes. It's on YouTube and it's worth a watch. Just that snapshot in time, right?
Yeah, and he says in the interview, I think it was like the first Ibiza documentary. Like no one really knew about Ibiza at the time. It's the first sort of look at what happened on the island. Again, Ibiza was something that I never did. That would have been a good thing to do. Did your brother ever go? Did Sam go?
He might have done. Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I'm sure. Let us know in the comments. But yeah, I think he did.
He was probably too busy dancing a night away at Lid Airport, wasn't he?
He probably was. He was. Yeah.
That was Acid House, wasn't it? An Acid House rave.
He'll tell us all about it in the comments.
I hope he does, man. We want reports from people that were there back in the day, right? That's what we want.
Yeah, man. I'd love to have gone to Ibiza when it was cool.
It's interesting, like that in the documentary. It's already a little bit late, right? In that by 1990, like there's like they interview these raver girls, and they're disappointed because it's like they're expecting like hard house, and they're like, oh, it's all like ambient and like boring now. We wanted like harder, and so already like music was changing. It's interesting.
I like the whole Ibiza thing.
On the back of those massive singles, they finally released their debut album in 1991. So again, we've got a theme, haven't we, over the last few episodes of bands taking a long time between forming and releasing an album.
I think a lot of that might be just because of recording processes as well. They've changed so much. It's really easy to quickly record something these days. It wasn't back then.
And you need a record
to plan everything out.
You need someone behind you, right?
You need a record deal and you had to plan everything. You couldn't just go in and sort of mess around until you found something that worked, because time was money and it was all on tape. So you just had to be more intentional.
Spartacus album 1991 went straight to #1 in the charts. In the UK at least. Mainly produced by Suggs, interestingly, which I didn't know.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So on the back of that, they signed loads of international deals, I think with Sony mainly, and they were set for international megastardom, but
what happened?
They didn't achieve it, basically.
I thought something was coming from the way.
Yeah, so I thought it was like leaving us with a cliffhanger.
Well, they released a couple of the singles after. The next singles not from that album basically didn't even make the top 30. The next album came out in 92, so just a year later. Love See No Colour didn't even chart, even though it's just a year later. They released a third album, Hullabaloo, in 94, didn't chart. That was it, and then they broke up soon after that.
And then, like a lot of bands, I think over time they've gained that sort of legendary status, and they had a huge crowd at Shine On, and like I say, it was one of the highlights for me.
So they started touring again in 2004, playing lots of festivals, like you say, Shine On. Also, they've been very politically active, musically politically active, talking part of something called The Collective. They did a lot of work for the Hillsborough campaign. And they've released a couple of singles in the last few years. He mentions a new single in the interview, and that's just come out. It's called Let the Music Take Control. It's pretty good. One of their best.
I really like that. Couldn't believe it was them.
Like these bands, like Shed 7, that's some of their best work. I think EMF's new album's getting rave reviews. It just seems like these bands, some of them are releasing their best stuff like now, It's good. Yeah. It's good to see, isn't it? Because a lot of times I think bands just release something just for the sake of releasing something, and it's a bit shit. But it doesn't seem to be that way with a lot of these new releases, which is good. All right. So should we just have a listen to the interview?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Here's Keith Mullin from The Farm. Enjoy. Hi, Keith. Thanks so much for coming on. I caught you guys at Shine On Festival. Well, it's last year now, wasn't it? Did you enjoy that gig? It was a good one, right?
We seem to. I think we've played near enough every shine on. We haven't played it. We've DJ'd it. And, personally, I think it's a great festival. You know what I mean? It's for some people our age, although I probably think I'm a little bit older than you. And,
I think we're catching you up.
yeah, maybe. I think year on year it just gets stronger and better as a festival. You know, and we always seem to be on at a different time or in a different room. But yeah, last year was great. But this year it was an exceptional gig. I thought we played really well because we've been playing all year, and so you're constantly when you're in a band and you're playing all year, you obviously you kind of it's more like automatic. It's more habitual as opposed to having to what was I playing again last 6 months ago? You know, because you haven't played together for 6 months because we're all very busy people. Do you know what I mean? We've got separate careers other than being in the farm. You know what I mean? So we're all very busy doing the stuff that we do. So we get back together every year to either play music, write music, or do farm things. You know, as more for fun, really. You know, more for fun these days.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that festival was a great festival. I really enjoyed that gig.
Yeah, it was good. It was really a moment, wasn't it, when you did All Together Now, dedicated to Manny and his family, and it was just a really nice moment.
Yeah, well, that was Pete, and obviously it was the right thing to do at that particular time, because we've Stone Roses and stuff, was great people, and they've been really good to us over the years, especially when we did when we were the Justice Tonight band, in 2011 to 2012 with Mick Jones from the Clash. We were doing that for the Hills thing, and they took us on a lot of their gigs, as Man United fans. They were like, yeah, it could have been us. And I'm an Everton fan, by the way, I'm not a Liverpool fan.
No comment on recent performance.
Fantastic, I love it. Yeah. Well done. And so they've always been good to us, and it's such a tragic thing to happen, and having had cancer twice myself, I kind of know you can never really know anyone else's experience, but you can certainly empathise with things, and he's such a wonderful soul, you know what I mean? And those moments are, All Together Now, wherever we go, always goes down really, really well. It's a song it's kind of lasted the test of lasted the test of time.
It's a real moment. Like I was saying to the guys when I come back from the Going On Festival, I'm not just saying this because you're on, but that was one of my highlights of the festival. It was just a big old sing-along.
He did.
It was a real moment. Yeah. I love stuff like that. It's the power of music right there, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it still sounds fresh after all these years. And it's still relevant, you know what I mean? It is an anti-war song, and it is about coming together. It's about, demonstrating that we've normally got more in common between each other than we have the separate dividers, you know what I mean? And that's ultimately what that song is trying to, allude to, and so it's such a great story in terms of what the song's actually about, which is, the First World War, where they kind of stopped killing each other at Christmas and had a game of football, between the Germans.
Yeah.
And it's Peter that, obviously Peter wrote the lyrics for that and come up with the concept and idea in terms of, it's a poem. It started, we wrote it as a poem originally and then put it to music, when we started to play, the music in the rehearsal, so that's how that kind of came about, Steve coming with the musical idea and Peter had these lyrics and we put it together and jammed it all out and then went into the studio and the Suggs produced that, some madness, Cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was his idea to have the break before the chorus, where the drop down, where everything drops out and goes into the chorus. That was one of Suggs' ideas.
That was Suggs, was it? That's cool.
Drop everything out.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, let's take it right back. So, can you tell us a bit about how you joined the farm?
Well, I joined the farm around about 1985. The farm had already been going as a band, and we're known band Liverpool. And I joined around about 1985. And that was because I was, the guitarist had left and they were looking for a guitarist. And it was purely based upon two lads I knew that I went to the football with, so I was, a match-going person, if you like, and dressed a certain way. What later would become known as casual, I suppose people would call it that, even though it wasn't necessarily called casual. It was called something completely different. But so, I'm at the farm where synonymous, I suppose, with that look, and because I went to football and played guitar and looked a certain way, two friends of mine knew Peter and said to Peter, there's a lad from around ours who plays guitar, he's great. He looks the part. You might want to give him a try. So then Steve came out to mine and auditioned me in the house. Where I can't even remember what I played, but I just played some chords and some licks and just messed around with the guitar. And he went, yeah, you're in. We give me a go. He invited me to a rehearsal, and then I kind of just started in from there. And
Wow.
so it was. My first ever gig was in London with them, and it was in a venue called Merlin's Cave. I'll never quite forget.
All right.
That was the first.
Was that whereabouts was that in London?
I can't remember. I think it was definitely. I think it was North London. I think it was North London, but I can't remember where it was.
What did the band sound like then? Had the sound developed?
Well, the farm sound evolved over time. Evolved quite significantly. But at that particular time, that section, and it was a mixture of kind of ska sound and punk, kind of influenced by the Jam, by the Sex Pistols, by Specials and bands like that. So I suppose it was and it was quite soulful at the time. It was the people used to call us socialists of soul or the soul socialists or something like that, because the lyrical content was quite it was social commentary focused, but as a lot of music was then, and we had a bit of a kind of Scottish soulful sound to it, which was a bit of hard edge indie to it, I suppose. And so it was that, and that worked for me. I really liked them as a band, and so the lineup was really two guitars, bass, drums, Peter vocals, me and Steve on backing vocals if needed, and then a brass section. So we had a brass section quite early on, which was interesting because the recent single we just put out, we returned to having some brass on that. We had saxophone on it, we got trombone on it. And we had
That's the ska influence, I guess.
Yeah,
I love ska, I've loved ska,
Me too, yeah.
It's been a big part of my life, especially in the early days, But so that's kind of how it sounded, and when I joined and in those early late 80s until we all started being influenced by the different style of music that was arriving. I mean, we'd always been into hip hop and music like that, and we were kind of quite influenced as well by bands like Big Audio Dynamite, the things that Mick Jones was in, and what Mick Jones was doing in Big Audio Dynamite in the early mid 80s, I suppose, was really inspirational to us, because he was possibly one of the first bands that began to use samplers and try to blend hip hop and reggae with independent music, and that's what Big Audio Dynamite was about, I mean, that's he formed that after the Clash, and because Mick's interest when he was in the Clash had changed quite significantly in that. With being in New York and looking at hip hop and listening to rap and listening to all those things, he wanted the Clash to go in that direction, and they obviously didn't, and produced and then he was sacked left type thing, and they produced the album Cut the Crap, which is never seen the light of day. And he went on to form Big Dynamite, but they were a big influence to us, bands like that. So and house music, we started to get involved in house music,
But you're going out clubbing?
Yeah, we were in Liverpool, places like the States and places like that, which is, I suppose, the Monday night in the States was an acid house. night, which we remember we went there one time after the year, so we're like we're converts overnight. We started in amazed by what was actually going on in this room, and that was probably probably towards the end of the 80s, about 88, I think, like that, something like that. Just by what was going on. And that we started to listen to those types of records and that type of music, and then that started to seep into what you produce and create yourself, And we began working with DJs as producers, as opposed, in addition to having a producer, So we got to know through our manager at the time, Kevin Sampson, the likes of Teddy Farley and people like that, and Andrew Weatherall and people like that. So we started knocking in Diesel, all of those type of people. So we started to kind of work with them, and people like Charlie Chester, who had a bit of a cult figure in Ibiza, So towards the end of the 80s, that's when we were knocking around with them and began to work with them, and it obviously influenced the music, and we ultimately then became started writing songs like Groovy Train All Together Now, which were, you think about these songs, they're also hip-hop influenced because of the rhythms, sections, the loops, because we started to get into samplers. We bought what was an Akai sampler and a computer and didn't really know what to do with it. So we told our trumpet player, who was a bit of a wizard on keyboards and stuff, he had to learn it, so, and he did.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That was another highlight, that set at Shine On, actually, the old Groovy Train. It sounded great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's another song that just kind of was written relatively quickly in the rehearsal room, you know what I mean? And it was the guitar and all of that was just something that was I was trying to sound like a keyboard, or something that I thought Mick might play. You know what I mean?
It's quite iconic, that little riff now, isn't it? It's like as soon as you hear that riff, you know what song's coming.
Yeah. It was kind of synonymous, I suppose, with what I was trying to do at the time. I was trying to sort of play something on guitar that was a little bit different and sounded would be more, I suppose, effective in a club, because that's where we were being influenced by that style and type of music at that time.
Yeah. You mentioned the socialist politics earlier. Can you talk a bit more about that? I mean, how important was that to the band, and is it still important now?
Well, I think it stems from being from Liverpool. So that's my dog's barking.
All right. Good.
Right. It's all right. Welcome.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of chihuahuas.
Great.
All right. Let me just cut this bit.
No, keep it. You go. Keep the dog.
Yeah, I'll get one of the times for you.
Well, maybe I could make an appearance.
Yeah, this is.
Here we go.
Here he is.
Oh, look at him.
All the noise.
A small dog. It's a lot of noise for a small dog. Look at that.
Yeah.
This is Lily.
Nice. Beautiful.
Lily's a
nice to meet.
Lily's
sweet.
Anyway, what was it?
Socialism.
Oh yeah. Basically, it stems from our lives, I suppose, and being from Liverpool. I mean, certainly for myself, I can't speak for everyone else in the band, but we've all been brought up in a similar background with similar people, and I suppose it stems from our families and our lives, and growing up in Liverpool in the 80s, where there's this city that we're now in, which is a completely regenerated city, was decimated by the then Tory government, and it was a city that was fighting the Tory government at the time. So when you come out of school and there's nothing there for you, and there's there's no future, there's just unemployment, you can't obviously look for rationale and reasons for that, And my father was a union union, member. He was a joiner, and he was a member of the union. I think it's called UCAT at the time, something like that. It was a union person. He was involved in the building workers' strikes in the 1970s. So I grew up in that environment, and probably so did other members of the band, and we all have slightly different, I suppose, histories on that, but that was my particular history. So I was always kind of politically motivated before I even joined the farm, which is one of the things I suppose that attracted me to the farm, because of their social stance, I suppose, and their and we don't know necessarily always agree on everything either, So in 1981, I was walking to London. I was on a march called the People's March for Jobs, which went from Liverpool to London.
Wow.
That's all. Right, that's not. Yeah, so I was on a march to London, which was about kind of the right to work, really. That was largely what it was. In Liverpool at that particular time, I think it was something like one of the highest youth unemployment rates in the country. There was something like 24% of, or close to 30% of the people under the age of 24 were unemployed. So it was significant, and had a significant impact. There was people being laid off all over the city. You'd heard of a certain kind of company going out of business, and 8,000 workers had been just laid off like that. Straight away. So it was quite bad in this city and in the north of England. So you kind of naturally gravitate to that. So I marched to London with 500 other people, from the city where we were protesting on the right and the right to work, and I was doing that I must have been about 20 years of age, at 19 at that age, something like that, doing that, and it was my father that encouraged me to go on that. That's just been recently recognised in Liverpool. There's a big mural on the wall now in one of the boroughs of Liverpool with this particular picture arch, and I'm actually in the mural, which is with me mates. So I met myself and 5 of my mates who all went to football matches, all went on this march.
That's pretty cool.
So the history, political thing is, it was just how we grew up. That of having a social conscience and having a wanting a better world for people, I suppose, was part of our education through our families and through the culture here in Liverpool, and how we grew up. So it naturally seeps into the music, because if you're kind of looking at a situation where there is very little opportunity, there's no such thing as social mobility, and there is high unemployment. You're into music, and you're getting a lot more gratification and satisfaction from that than, say, working in a kitchen washing dishes, which I've actually done that job. You're going to gravitate towards it, and it also gave me, and it gave other members of the farm, a voice that we didn't otherwise have. And so music, in a sense, if you think about it, in a sense, over time, it's storytelling, isn't it? You can listen to a song, say, 40s, 50s, or 60s, and if you look at that like a historical artifact, that particular song, you look at it like it's some kind of historical artifact, and look at it, kind of when it was made, who it was made by, where it was made, how it was manufactured, who did the artwork, all the different things about it. Just by researching that, I can tell you a significant amount about the time in which it was made.
Yeah.
So I look at songs and music like that,
Yeah.
I think we've always.
I wonder though, right? Like young people now coming out of school, they've got fuck all, but they're not gravitating towards socialism like in the early to mid 80s. I wonder why that is.
I don't know. I think that although he became a bit of a line figure, which was Corbyn, I think you look at a lot of the people that were into Jeremy Corbyn, it was kids.
Right. Well, you campaigned for him, right? Well, the farm did. I don't know if you personally, but the band campaigned for Corbyn, right?
We did, yeah. We did, yeah. We campaigned for Labour at the time because he was the leader of the Labour Party. Someone that gave us a little bit of belief, whether or not you like him or hate him, it's kind of irrelevant. He was saying the right things at the time, and some of the things that really come to fruition.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, as well as the kids of today, I mean, I definitely feel that the kids, it's a different generation that they're influenced by different things, and they've different applying upon them, and it's a different world that they're going into, very different. But I do feel that it's informed and it's educated, because a significant amount of the cover movement was people under the age of 30. It wasn't all old people like us. We go to rallies and they're full of kids. And I think that's why the media and people were terrified of him, because he did have a lot of people that was, that supported him, and that's, I suppose, can be quite frightening for people.
Yeah, I think when they saw the old chants at Glastonbury, I think that puts sort of a bit of fear into him.
He wasn't
No.
Do you think Red Wedge helped or hindered it?
I think we played one of those gigs. I think it was. I don't think it hindered it. I think it'll certainly help, and it's certainly engaged a generation of kids into politics. I think those things can be a positive thing if they're done right and done in the right way, and they're not just there to kind of use to kind of get votes and that type of thing. But if it is a genuine thing, I think that type of thing can work. I think Red Wedge kind of lasted, for as long as it lasted, and it was on thing at the time. There was a lot going on then. There was a hell of a lot going on.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's just an area that I'm really interested in. As you say, I'm slightly younger, so I missed out on it. So it's really good to hear from the inside. Yeah.
It's definitely worth, looking at. I'm trying to, and definitely worth reading about, researching it, because there's so many interesting things that were happening back then. Rock Against Racism, all of those types of events. All the bands that we love played them. All that we love would have played those types of events. The Clash days, all of those types of bands played Rock Against Racism. We all played those. A lot of those events.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. You mentioned Charlie Chester earlier. Can I ask a bit about Ibiza? So I watched that documentary a while ago. I forgot the name of it. About chilling. I mean, how much do you remember about that? It was fascinating to watch from like 2023. It was amazing.
Well, that was made by us. Was made by our manager at the time, Kevin Sampson, worked for Channel 4, and he was he part of the editorial team there at Channel 4, and he was, he kind of convinced our label, who were our mates, basically, because we had our own label in Liverpool called Project Records. We made signs and went, we just did everything ourselves. We managed to convince them to put some money into filming. And we got invited first and foremost out to Ibiza by Charlie Chester. It was him that said, look,
oh, really?
Yeah, we're doing this 2-week event out in Ibiza. It's a flying event. There's even a club in London called Flying, which was great. He'd had us on playing the flying night. So we'd already knew Charlie. We already knew, Boca Juniors, Junior Boys Own, and all them people. And we were hanging out with them, and so we got invited there, and part of it was, well, why don't we film it? And that's how that came about, really. So our record label at the time paid funded the money for us to go out there with a guy called Angus Cameron, I think his name was, the producer, the director of that, and just film what went on, So they were out there for 2 weeks filming what went on, and we were out there playing as well. And so it was the only documentary, or the first documentary, pop doc, if you like, documentary of its type at that time. No one else had gone out there and tried to film what was taking place in the island of Ibiza in 87, 89, and we were out there in 1990. So we were the first people to go and make anything like that. And what Kevin did is he went back, he took the documentary, he went back to Channel 4, and he didn't actually tell them he was managers at the time. And said, look, these people have gone out Ibiza and film this this amazing thing that has taken place out on the island of Ibiza, which is we now know as rave culture and stuff like that. And they bit, you know, they bit and I said, okay.
Had you been out there before in 88 or 89?
No, that was our first time out there. You know? So we went out, everything that was going on, you know, bands like Man Called Adam, all the DJs, rocking DJs, all the different club nights, and obviously we featured quite heavily in it, you know.
Yes.
Great state and all of that type of thing. And it just so happened that, I mean, there were the days when I suppose someone like Kevin could go into Channel 4 and say, look, we've got this great documentary being made out in Ibiza and get it commissioned right relatively quickly. And on TV, you could turn it around quite quickly. And so we did that, and it was broadcast on national TV, something like on a Friday or something like that, on a Thursday night, and it was the most watched youth culture documentary of that year.
Wow.
And we just happened to be releasing our single about 3 days later, you know. So,
oh, what a coincidence!
we released it about 3 days later. So it was like made up in the moment, but there was a little bit of strategy to it as well. Where it was going, oh, we do that there, do that there. It's all going to help us a little bit, you know. And that documentary's become a cult viewing, you know, for a lot of people. I know the likes of Ben Turner told us quite a few years ago that it was he was sitting in Birmingham, I think that's where he was. He said watching that on TV, and that was what made him go out to Ibiza. You know,
wow.
and become one of the, you know, significant influence on dance music. You know, like being a journalist, owning record labels and being being an editor of, you know, Mix Mag and things like that, you know. So that documentary inspired a lot of people to go there as well, you know. And it was just, again, one of those things. We were in a situation where we could just say, let's go and do that, because we weren't signed to a major record label, we were independent, so we could have ideas, and as long as we had a little bit of money to go and do it, we could just go and do it. And some of these ideas not always work, like, but you know, that's kind of how that came about, you know. And
brilliant. Did you enjoy the clubbing as well? Did you get into it? Did you?
I'd be fair to say we did. Yeah.
yeah. Although there was a couple of kind of moments in it where I got the impression that you weren't, again, going back to the socialism thing, maybe there was because you weren't comfortable with like the wealth disparity on display and all the people on their fucking yachts and all of that, right? That kind of come across. It was kind of implied a little bit in a couple of moments, or was it just me picking up and stuff? I don't know.
Well, no, that was, we were just making observations, I suppose. You know, for some members of the farm, that was the first kind of time they'd been abroad. You know, I mean, going abroad now and having a holiday in Spain or Mexico or these exotic places, I suppose, it's like, you know, it's normal, but back then it wasn't. For some of us, you know, for some of us, that was the first time we'd gotten on a plane. You know, that was the first time I'd ever actually been on a plane. Because, you know, we didn't have holidays when we were kids. Basically, we were lucky we got some buttons. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we got to a car. You know, I remember one holiday, I think my dad borrowed a caravan in Wales somewhere. You know, it was the holidays weren't a regular thing for us, you know. So I'm not saying it was like that for every member of the farm, but I would say it was like that for most people. So going out there was quite exotic to us, you know, and it was a really exciting thing to do, and especially the fact that we were going out there and playing as a band, it couldn't get any better. But for us,
yeah.
You know, when you're out there, you know, being in a band does open your eyes a little bit to how some people live, you know, and especially when you're coming from a background where, you know, you've had kind of very little, because I suppose. I don't really want to go on about that. Like,
I know. No, it's my fault. I'm asking I apologize.
No, but it's like, it's kind of like, you know, that's the truth. You know, we didn't. I've not really been on an airplane before.
Yeah.
When you're out there, and you kind of looking at, you know, people on the yachts and just making sarcastic comments. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah. I think it was William Peter, isn't it, talking between themselves about smuggling on the yacht.
Great.
So, yeah. but it made it didn't make the cutting room floor. It certainly made good TV, and it made the documentary, which was good.
Yeah.
You know?
So Groovy Train dropped straight after you got back, and it blew up basically. I mean, how was it when things took off? Because that's like a long time from when you joined. It's like 5 years, and then suddenly you're on top of the pops, and everything's going mad. How was it?
Yeah, it was crazy. You know, it really, really was crazy. It's the only way I can explain it. When I look back at it now, I kind of wish I'd had a grip on myself and saying, "Slow down." You know, it was crazy because. We didn't really have anyone there telling us not to do things. We didn't really have anyone there kind of advising us as to you know, what the strategy is going to be or how you're going to evolve as a band. We didn't even at that point see it as a career. It was just what we were doing. You know, you don't think in those terms. We listen to a lot of musicians now that talk about careers. We really talk about careers then. We were just trying to make music and having a voice. And doing it for very, very, I suppose, different reasons, you know. And then you become exposed to all kinds of stuff that you never dreamed you would, you know. So some of it is great, obviously, it's great, you know, but some of it becomes quite uncomfortable in a way, you know, because, I mean, I don't think I know you don't necessarily sometimes deal really well with all the attention, you know, and all the fame and all goes with it. It puts you in a very unusual, I suppose, situation. You know, it's not a normal situation that you end up being in. You know, you want to go on stage and play music and for people to listen and appreciate music, and you want to applaud. And kind of when you get it, it becomes really intense. You don't want it, you know. So it's a bit of a dichotomy.
I was going to say, being in the band, it's a very intense experience touring, and you're basically living together, aren't you, for months on end? And
you're in each other's trousers, you know. I mean, it's like, you know, you can get on each other's nerves, like for the stupidest and most simplest things, and
intense.
When you're on the road as well, I mean, it's every night it's drinking, isn't it? You know, back then that was kind of what. It goes going on. You've got riders where you get free drinks, you get all kinds of free lists, and so you kind of you slip into a habit of doing that type of thing, and it becomes quite detrimental, I suppose, to you as an individual, you know, both mentally and physically, you know. So, and it's just the work that goes with it, because it is non-stop work. You can look at it and think, "Oh, what a wonderful life," but you spend most of your time in a band waiting out, you know, waiting for the ball, or waiting to get to the gig, or waiting for sound check, or waiting to go on stage, and meeting with people after the gig, and waiting to go to the hotel. It's just, you know, and then you wait. It's just, you spend most of your time waiting around when you're in the band, and working. You know, working. It doesn't matter what time it is. If you have to get up at 3 a.m. because you've got to go to, you know, like go and catch a flight to Amsterdam because you've got TV to do in Amsterdam or in Holland, and then go straight after that, you'll fly to France, and then because you've got some more stuff to do there, and then go to Spain. I mean, I remember doing that in one day, going from Holland to France to Spain in one 24-hour period to do different gigs. So it can become a bit like, you know, it's like you don't know where you are. Sometimes I remember waking up once and waking up once and I got really drunk on the flight, and I woke up in the morning and I didn't know what country he was in. You know, it's like what country we in today, and it was so it's okay. You know, and that it can get a little bit like that. You know, it does get a bit like that.
Yeah.
You don't have anyone looking after your mental health. Then you don't. Back then, you didn't have anyone that, you know, looking after you know, even like, I mean, I wear hearing aids now because I'm past deaf now, but no one was talking about about the hearing and your health and all that. Stuff. Whereas now it's the first thing that kids are taught, you know, to look after your hearing, to look after.
On earplugs, yeah.
So,
that's true.
It's a lot of work for all of the kind of rock and roll crazy stories that you hear and go on. It's also a lot of work, you know.
But was there some rock and roll as well?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Did you get to meet any heroes?
Sorry?
Did you get to meet
Oh,
any of
yeah.
your heroes?
Yeah. I mean, we got to meet Mick Jones. It was one of our heroes. We'd already got to meet Suggs. You know, with most of the people that you aspired to or liked or were icons at the time. At some point, that you bump into them, you know, and
Yeah.
and that was, you know, I always found that fine. You know, some people say you should meet your heroes, but that might be true in some cases, you know, but for most of the people I've ever met, they're normally just all right. You know, they're
Yeah.
normally
Yeah, because people say that, but through doing this podcast, you know, we spoke to loads of our heroes, and they've all been bloody lovely. So, I don't know
Lovely
why.
people.
they're all human at the end of the day, and they're probably the same as the kids that you grew up with in your class. Some of them are not so nice, some of them are all right. Do you know what I mean? Or some of them are God. It's kind of the way it works. It works, and that carries on through music, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I met Chris Rea once. Remember we met Chris Rea once? That was in, we were doing some of the pops, and so was Chris Rea. And he was lovely. He was absolutely
Yeah.
lovely then. We sat in
I mind it,
the
Chris. Yeah.
cafeteria with him, and he was absolutely lovely, you know. And then he comes
I was
in,
going to say,
go on.
about top of the pops. Can you remember who was on when you played? Which other bands did you meet? Can you remember?
I think we played with Cliff Richard was on.
Oh,
And that was when we had All Together Now in the charts, and Cliff Richard was on, and Madonna was I don't think he was on, I think it was a video. And remember meeting with Cliff Richard? I remember I went over to Cliff Richard and asked for his autograph from my mum.
Neil's mum's a big Cliff fan as well.
I think he told me he was beautiful. Well, Cliff was beautiful, you know.
Yeah.
And gave me the autograph from my mum. Not that I don't even think my mum wanted his autograph. I just got it. So
Yeah.
people like
Cliff
know,
Richard.
and being on some of the pops with someone like you, it just felt surreal because things spent all your that show. And so back then, a TV show like that really meant something.
Yeah.
Because that's how you learn about some new bands or new music, or that's how you know who's doing well in the charts. Whereas now it's all at the end of that, isn't it? It's all at the end of the phone. Back then, you'd have to go and read about it, or you'd have to go out the house to go and buy a record. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now you just it's all ubiquitous, isn't it? It's like water, it's at the end of the phone. And then, whereas, you know, so when you're on a show like that with people that you spent all your life, you know, kind of not watching because you like them, but you know, they're just there all the time, they're omnipresent. It can be quite a bit of a surreal experience. Didn't feel
Yeah, for sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned All Together Now. So I mean, we talked about it quite a lot already, but it's I mean, why do you think it has become like such a it's a timeless classic, really? And what you know, what separates just like a great song from a classic song, which it is, you know?
I just think it's got a good chorus. It's got a feel. I mean, we took the chords from what we knew as the time as the Sheep advert. Like that's kind of, and it was we called it the Sheep advert because it's the music really is Pachelbel's Canon in D major. And Pachelbel's a classical composer who died 200 years previously, so which meant the music was copyright free. But the members of the farm, you know, Steve, if you like, has always been into classical music. He's always been into listening to that type of music, and as I have myself, and so Steve always liked that chord progression. So we remember bringing it into the rehearsal and saying, "Well, I've always loved some," and playing up the strings on the keys, and it was all going, the Sheep advert, because it was used in an advert in the 80s to sell wool.
Right.
He used to keep walking across the street, and Pachelbel Canon would be getting played in the background, and we all instantly recognised it. And the idea was then let's put it to a hip hop loop, which is what happened. I think it was a Booyah Tribe loop that we put it to at the time, and we just put it to a hip hop loop, and it all just emerged from there, you know. But you know, and so that cycle, that chord cycle has been used so many times in music. And if you get it right, and you get the right melodies, and you do the right interpretation, I think it can stand the test of time. I mean, it stood the test of time in terms of music for 200 years, prior to the music.
That's true.
Yeah.
And a lot of people,
Yeah. What's another 30? Right.
yeah. A lot of people have that sequence we call cycle scenes. Pet Shop Boys used it, so it's a canon, and it's a cycle. It goes round, and it works kind of really well. And then you've got obviously the melody and Peter's lyrics, which are, ultimately at the end of the day, it's a really interesting story. It's a humorous, and it's based on fact, and we kind of, I think at that particular time, it being a Christmas, it's not a Christmas song, it's an anti-war song, which is what it ultimately is.
Yeah.
Just happens to Christmas,
Yeah.
So I think that a lot there are different elements, and I just think it connects with people. It's about hugging your enemy, I suppose, isn't it? Or being next to, or working with the next kind of. Sorry, I've got to move that because it's on the computer and I'm driving the computer. That's what it is.
And I think it's just a positive message behind it, right? It's it's great.
A lot of hate in the world, isn't there, at the moment? You kind of always seem to
good.
That's a positive message, which there's. I mean, the not most poignant lines. I think beyond altogether now in that song is the line where Peter's saying there's a spirit stronger than war. Who's working that line, and there is a spirit stronger than. And that's ultimately what took place, in terms of people not waking up Christmas morning, not wanting to kill each other, and walking across no man's land. Imagine the crush that takes. A piece of land which is completely, desolate, destroyed, and in the previous weeks and days has been, a barbaric men, killing each other. Where you shoot each other, bomb each other, and then you just decide one day not to do that and take that first step.
Imagine it.
Just imagine being that first person. I think that alone takes some courage.
You'd have to. You wouldn't want to be the first one, would you?
When you never shot each other, never killed each other. So that's ultimately that story is an amazing story. And Peter brought that to life with his lyrics, and that's why I feel it's tested time.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's just got that message, hasn't it? Yeah, like you said, it's still relevant now. Well, more than ever, really.
Yeah.
You said you played loads last year. How about for 2024? Have you got a lot of gigs lined up? Yeah,
we've already got quite a few gigs in the book, but I think the first one's in Manchester. I think about the 29th. We've got 29th of February, I think, or 28th of February. We're playing in Manchester with Saul and James and Joe Dedan's orchestra. And we're doing a gig there it's an anti-poverty gig. It's we're doing that in Manchester towards the end of Manchester. So that would be one of the first ones we do. And that's going to be quite different from what we normally do, guys. That'll be us doing it as a broken down thing with string sections and an orchestra and stuff like that. So we're looking at pulling that together at the moment. And then we've got, quite a few festivals coming in throughout the summer. We'll probably be looking to do some more farm gigs towards the end of the year because we've got a lot of new music out this year. So
I was going to say I saw a new single announced as well. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, we had a single out last year called Feel the Love, which got playlisted at Radio 2, and we haven't been playlisted at Radio 2 for years. So it did really well. And so on what we plan to do, because me, Steve, and Peter have been writing for a while now, and not for anything other than a bit of fun, but we never really stopped working on ideas. We just didn't really do anything with it because we're all busy. We had some of these songs before COVID, but we kind of released some as a physical EP, and then we were going to put them online and never did anything with that. But then I got cancer just before COVID and during cancer. So I got throat cancer. I cleared my throat up. So I've had throat cancer twice. And I'm in remission now for nearly this summer, it'll be 4 years. I'm in remission.
Oh, great.
And so obviously, I know everyone being busy, that kind of knocked us out of our step. So, but then after it, we thought, let's get releasing that music. So we released Feel the Love in September, and it done really well. It done really, really well as a track. And our next single is called Let the Music Brackets Take Control. That was on the 1st of February, which is in about 4 weeks' time.
Nice.
Brilliant.
That will I'll send you over a version so you can have a listen.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I mean, the new music that we're doing at the moment is kind of inspired by the things that we're listening to at the moment, but also some of those things that we would listen to as kids, you know. I mean, just we've been playing these new tracks to people in the industry that we kind of know, and they're all coming back telling us, look, these are great songs, you know, which is one of the reasons we started to release them, because we thought, you know, we'd be bothered releasing them because they can kind of look a bit contrived when you start doing it at our age. But everyone's been saying, "Well, get them out there." And we thought, well, yeah, we'll just do it. And we're doing it in the same way that we did. We're doing it. We've always done it. It's DIY. We're doing it ourselves.
Nice. I mean, what kind of bands are you listening to at the moment that you're influenced by?
You know what? I'm listening to all kinds of different stuff at the moment. I listen to kind of new stuff, old stuff. You know, I've been listening to a lot of disco recently. I don't really know why.
Well, the title sounds a bit disco-y. Let your body take it.
You could say that this is, you know, it's kind of influenced by those things that we like when we were, not like when we were kids, but the things that just within us, you know, you're constantly bombarded by as kids. And so there's definitely a kind of, you know, a Kraftwerk disco influence in there.
Nice.
With this new track, and again, everyone that's heard it as saying it sounds like the Farm, but the Farm now, you know, which is, I suppose, you know, it's kind of what you want there.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to let you go in a minute. Thank you. We've kept you a long time. We apologise. Neil, do you want to ask the question we always ask?
Yeah, so this is the question that we asked all our guests. And we just like to know, if you could have been in any other band around that time, who would it have been and why?
What was the question again? Sorry.
Well, if you could have been in any other band around the time that Farm, sort of late 80s, early 90s, who would it have been and why?
If I could have been doing what with them?
Well, anything.
It's up to you.
Hypothetically.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there was some great bands that come out of that time. There really, really was some great bands that come out of that time, and most of them were kind of. Yeah. One of the bands I really liked from that the 80s, which I still think are relevant now, is Nirvana. You know, Nirvana.
Yeah, great band.
I still listen to them now. You know what I mean? And I listen to Matt and his, you know, I just listen to them. This band now.
Yeah, no, great band.
So they still sound fresh to me. You know, they still sound fast. It's got that kind of 80s feel. But what we were doing at the time with you know, with the music and how we was recording and the different type of approach to production and stuff like that time was really inspiring and still inspiring now. Yeah. You know, so yeah, they're one of the bands that I kind of really love. You know, from that time. I also love Bob Marley. I've always been a massive Bob Marley fan. You know, I got to see Bob Marley.
Did you?
Really?
I was only a kid. I got to see him in inside.
Oh wow!
Oh nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's great answer. All right, that's brilliant. What's the best way for people to find out what you're up to?
Via our social media, really.
Okay.
The Farm, either on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. It's normally the Farm Music or Farm Live. And normally, just our social media, the Farm. And put on, you know, all your social media channels, and you can pre-save our new release. If you go to any social media, the link that you'll be able to click and I mean, pre-save is something we never used to do years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay,
What
so-
we'll probably do, we'll probably try to time it so that this comes out just as the
Yeah.
single comes out, if we can. It's probably-
Fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll try to do that.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, we're going to stop the recording, but don't jump away just yet. One moment. But thank you very much. Thank you.
There we go. Keith from the farm. Dave, what do you reckon?
Oh yeah, I really liked him. I mean, say that every week, but he was such a down to earth guy.
I'm waiting for the week where you say I really didn't like that guy. I'm waiting for that week.
What a prick.
But it's funny, isn't it? I genuinely did like. I have liked everyone.
Yeah. No, he's a lovely guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was funny. I think was it Luke that asked him why he thought All Together Now was a good hit, and he just said, "Well, it had a good chorus or something," you know.
Yeah. Very matter of fact.
Fair enough, right?
But going back to the All Together Now, yeah. I mean, what a song. Anti-war song. Still relevant. Still powerful. I said in the prelude to the interview, it's just one of those timeless classics, isn't it? Great sing-along song. It's just great. Like, first time I'd seen it live at Cheyenne, but it's a brilliant song. Sounds great live.
Positive message. Yeah.
I didn't realise it was about the Christmas footy match.
No, nor did I.
Really?
Yeah, no, I
Oh,
didn't know
okay.
that.
It's pretty obvious, isn't it, when you actually listen to
Yeah.
the lyrics? But I didn't know. Yeah, I looked up that because I thought, is that a bit of a myth that they all came out and played football?
I was
and
about
stuff?
to say this.
And it's not a myth. Yeah, it's not a myth at all. It did happen,
Mm.
but it only happened at the first Christmas, and then
Mm.
the high commands just prevented it. They did not want that happening ever again.
But I think about that, like, you've got to be brave, haven't you, to be that first player on the pitch. Like, just to hope that no one's going to fucking blow your face off.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of trust.
But yeah, I think that kind of highlights the madness of war, doesn't it? That, in that football game, you know, play a game of football and then back to it.
Yeah. It's crazy, eh?
I wasn't aware of the Suggs connection until we spoke to Keith. I didn't know anything about that.
No, then when I looked into it, it came up in nearly everything I read about it. It came up, so I guess it was
Right,
fairly
yeah.
famous. But I didn't know it's from classical music as well. Didn't know it's from. Did you listen to the Pachelbel that he mentioned, the canon in D major?
No, did you find it?
Yeah.
Is it the same?
Yeah. It's totally. I can totally see where it comes from. Yeah.
He kept saying it's from a sheep advert. I don't. What did he mean?
What do you
You
mean?
don't
You
really
can't
see
buy
adverts
sheep.
for sheep, do you? Yeah.
You can't
He
go.
did
You
say
can't buy a sheep, man.
advert.
I don't think Keith said anything about
I
buying
think you were
sheep.
watching a different interview, man.
He said sheep.
You said sheep.
Did you
Keep
say
saying
I
sheep?
it.
misheard it.
They don't usually advertise for buying sheep on telly,
Well,
do
that's
they?
what I thought.
I
Maybe it
think-
was a wool advert.
Maybe you didn't say it.
But even then, you don't get adverts for wool, do you?
Lamb chops.
Bernard Matthews.
That must be it.
Don't know what you're talking about. I found it quite interesting. Well, I find this quite interesting anyway. But when he joined the farm, it was primarily because he looked the part, and then it was like an after thing that he could actually play the guitar really well. But it's the band identity thing, isn't it? It happens with Jesus Jones
It's
as well.
important,
didn't it?
man.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's being modest though. I think he was good at guitar.
Yeah, oh no, yeah, it's a great guitarist, but I'm just saying that primarily before they even heard him play guitar, they're like, oh, he looks decent, and then they heard him play guitar, and it was like, yeah, maybe that's why Main Street suffered a little bit. We all look like we were in different bands, I think.
Oh man, do you know what? I was clearing out my CDs today because I'm renovating this room, and I found this Main Street CD.
There
I'm
you
in.
go. Looks like a record, doesn't it?
Look at that.
I know.
I'd lock that in a safe if I was you.
It's good.
Is it
that.
supposed to look like a? Oh right, it's supposed to look like a record.
Yeah, it's supposed to look like a record.
Yeah, I do you know I took almost all of my CDs to the record shop to sell them, but I kept this one back
Oh, keep that. It'd be worth some money.
because no fucker's going to buy it, are they? It won't.
It's a good song, that.
Why don't you, as a
No, I mean-
challenge,
Yeah.
as a challenge before next week, just go and see how much they'll give you for it, how many yen, and then come back and tell us next
Put
week.
it on
I
eBay.
took like a whole
Could be a
bag
little
of them
slot.
earlier, They wouldn't take like a burned
What do you
CD
mean?
though, would they?
They'll be biting your hands off for that.
They'd throw it back in my face.
Bootleg.
I wouldn't. They'd know. They'd know. They'd tell you that they didn't know what it was, but they'd know.
The mighty Main
They'd know.
Street. Anyway, I found that today.
So going back to the Suggs thing, like Keith said that the band was like ska punk influenced. I love all that. The ska was a really important scene, wasn't it, to a lot of these bands? We've had a few people mention the Specials. It was quite a political movement, wasn't it? The ska scene. I think that's quite important as well.
Yeah.
Disenfranchised.
And they
youth
looked
all
cool
that.
as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ghost Town.
I love that.
Yeah, man.
The ska scene, sort of just came and went in a flash, but it was a really huge scene for the youth of the UK, I think.
It was part of that Red Wedge thing, and I had to go and look that up. I hadn't heard of that.
Mm. Oh, really?
That was quite interesting. Yeah.
For the listeners, Dave, do you want to give a rundown of Red Wedge?
Well, it just looked like quite a few notable bands and artists were in a political movement. Inevitably, it broke up because they disagreed with each other.
Well, no, not really, not really. So it was like, I think it was like mainly like Billy Bragg, Paul Weller, and Jimmy Somerville were like the main people, right?
Mm.
And I think they basically come together for the sole kind of reason is to get Labour elected, basically. And they were like semi-official, like they were given an office, like in the
really?
Labour headquarters and stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
And it was like, they were like semi-official within the Labour Party, but not really. And they had also comedians like Ben Elton and Lenny Henry and Harry Enfield, all those kind of up and coming at the time, right? New comedy kind of comedians. They were in it as well, and they did tours and gigs and benefits, just trying to raise awareness and get young people to vote the Tories out, basically. And
that's what they should.
they broke
get
up
back to
because
doing.
they lost the 1987 election. That's
Yeah, it
why
didn't
it
work.
kind of fizzled out, basically, because the fuckers won.
Dave, I've got a question for you.
How many times a day do you use a masturbatorium?
That wasn't my question, but you might as well answer it now. It's
That's
been
my
asked.
question, and I want an answer.
I wish it was one.
Too many to count.
I do.
Yeah.
Anyway, whenever someone asks you a question or something, I've got a nervous thing where I touch this side of my face, but you always look out your window like that. Did you know that?
Yeah, I do. I've actually noticed that myself.
Just thought I'd mention it. Anyway,
I can't explain it.
no, it's a thing,
I like it.
isn't it? Luke plays with his pen. I do that, and you do that. Just an observation.
No, thanks.
But I want to talk a bit more about all the socialist stuff he was talking about. So I loved listening to all of that, right?
I bet you.
And it was
fucking
really
did,
interesting, like
didn't
we were saying. He was like, well, but he was like explaining it. He's like how Thatcher's Conservatives basically destroyed Liverpool, and there was no future for young people. And so he was like, so of course I was drawn to socialism. And like I asked him in the interview, like, well, it's not of course, right? Because the same shit's happening now, and young people aren't being drawn to socialism. There's not a new Red Wedge. There's not artists that are, making these collectives like they did then. And I just don't understand why not.
But I think young people are drawn to socialism. My kids are definitely drawn that way.
Okay. They're just it's not seen in the media, I guess.
It's been squashed, mate.
Most young people that you speak to would vote environmentally if they had the choice, but no major parties really offering them any of that. But they would certainly vote Labour over Tory.
You got Greta Thunberg's movement, haven't you?
Come on, Dave, pronounce it properly. You're Swedish. Pronounce it properly.
Greta Thunberg?
That's better.
I think that was pretty good. It sounded more Swedish than us.
Thunberg.
Yeah, it's good to see that Lawrence Fox's party's just fucking falling apart. I love that.
He's having some troubles, isn't he, that bloke?
Didn't he just lose some court battle?
It keeps entering like these local elections, and it doesn't get enough votes to pay. You have to put up a deposit, I think, and you get that back if you get enough votes. And they keep not getting enough votes, so has to shell out all this money. It's just shit. It's just shit.
I mean, I guess that's heartening, isn't it?
Maybe he's just not very popular.
Maybe it's because he's a massive cunt.
Yeah, completely.
I think Luke's got it, yeah.
Completely.
Well, if you're a massive cunt, usually not popular, you know.
Donald Trump's a massive cunt and he's popular.
But he's a idiot one though. He's like a simpleton cunt.
Yeah, they're funny. They're funny cunts, aren't they?
They are amusing. Yeah.
What about Ben Shapiro then? He's probably the biggest cunt on earth.
I don't know much about him.
Oh, he's just a hideous guy. Hideous.
Yeah.
Oh, don't know him.
It's a bit
Okay.
grey.
He's like Lawrence Fox, but much more intelligent and much nastier. Don't worry, I won't be alienating any of our listeners by saying that.
No, I don't think so.
They'll all
I wasn't
agree,
worried.
convinced.
I think we know our listeners. I think we're all good.
Oh, I think in someone like Lawrence Fox, that's an objective. He's objectively a cunt. That's not an opinion.
Old Andy Weatherall popped up again.
Yeah, what an influential figure he is.
Like I think I said this in a couple of episodes before, and I knew the house scene and the indie scene kind of merged, but it just wouldn't have been that indie scene without house music, right? Like Keith said that riff for Groovy Train was specifically designed to be played in the clubs to sound like a keyboard rather than a guitar. That's why the riff sounds like it does. You know, it's an integral part of that music, and it was dance music. You know.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Drugs.
Yeah. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ecstasy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but why do people who listen to indie like house music as well?
Drugs. My answer's the
goes
same.
back-
It's drugs.
So you reckon without ecstasy, we might not have had either scene.
Yeah, and indie would have carried on being boring as fuck, like, you know, droney, moany Smith's shite, you know. So it was boring and miserable, wasn't it? Made music joyous again, you know.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It is interesting, all that. Yeah, it seems like the Farm, their music was a real sort of melting pot. You had the ska, you had the house,
The Northern Soul.
Northern Soul, you know, a real melting pot of musical influences.
Yeah, it's kind of a pattern of the very early 90s, right? Late 80s, early 90s. It seemed to be a lot of that around, not only like indie dance, but just lots of influences from different places. And I think as the 90s went on, it became a bit more consolidated, right? And a bit less varied, maybe.
Actually, my daughter keeps playing the Smiths.
Oh, really?
Oh, interesting.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
How did she discover them?
I don't know. I mean, I do like them. I didn't stick up for them just now, but it's not because of that. It must be coming from her friends.
She must walk into the kitchen in the morning, Lighthouse Family blaring out. I'm surprised she hasn't sort of gone down that route. What's happened there?
I know. Well, they don't like what their parents like, do they?
That's true. Yeah. They're going to rebel against that. Yeah.
Oh, did you see actually? Tundi's on tour. He's going
Oh,
on
is he?
tour with Gabrielle. Yeah. Tundi.
There you
Oh,
go.
wow.
There you go.
Tunde and Gabrielle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going?
Well, maybe you could get me some free tickets now.
Might get you a press pass.
You're media. We're media, man.
Yeah.
See if I can
I'll
swing
go.
you a press
I'll definitely
pass.
go and I'll report back.
All right, Neil, make it happen, man.
I'll see what I can
Dave
do.
meets Tunde.
What would you say to him if you met him face to face?
I'd start with sorry. All the shit he's got on this.
Don't think
I
Tunde
think
tuned in.
that's not. It's not your fault, though. To be fair, Dave, that's not your fault.
Well, I'll be apologising on behalf of the team.
No, he'd be thanking you. He'd be saying thanks. You know, you stuck up for us. We appreciate it, brother. Don't apologise on our behalf. We're not sorry. Tunde and Gabrielle. Who'd have thunk it? He steps up on that stage, and you hear the opening sequence to "Lifted."
No, you know what it's like when you hear a good song at a concert.
Yeah, man.
Gives you a buzz, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
Nothing
Do
like
you think
it.
you'll cry?
No, I don't cry. I more go into kind of a stupor.
Sure.
Just mesmerised by the music.
Are you going to take some pills when you go?
Whatever's on offer.
Yeah.
Go and do some acid and go and watch Tundi.
That's your assignment for the podcast.
No, I'm not doing that on my own.
Neil will go with you.
But everyone will be on it at the Tundi gig anyway. That's his vibe. Have we got anything else to say about the farm?
No, I like the recurring Top of the Pops question.
Yeah,
I quite like
it's
that.
interesting to see who they're
Each
played
time
with,
we
isn't
asked
it?
them who they're on Top
Yeah.
of the Pops with. And he spoke quite warmly of Cliff, didn't he?
And Chris Rea. I think he's just a nice guy, Keith. Probably just gets on with everyone, doesn't he? Even if they are massive twats.
I'm sure Chris Rea's a decent bloke.
You said you liked him in the interview.
I wasn't talking about Chris Rea, was I?
The other
Who are we talking
CR.
about?
The other CR.
Ah,
It was a great show. We keep saying it, but yeah, what a travesty that's gone. But it wouldn't get watched like it used to get watched anyway, would it? Because people don't watch TV like they used to.
no, but it would have a life on its own online, wouldn't it? There would be like, the viral clips of the week would be the ones that would be circulating online and stuff, right? So it would work in a different way, but
Yeah.
it would have value.
We should make a mission, this podcast, to try and get Top of the Pops recommissioned.
How are we going to do that?
Tundi?
Yeah. He's our way in.
Dave will do some acid, speak to Tundi. Tundi will speak to the execs at Top of the Pops, and that'll be it. Be back online by next week. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching and listening, or watching or listening. If you are watching, please do give it a thumbs up. Leave us a comment below. Let us know your favourite farm tracks, farm memories, Ibiza, house, drugs, all that stuff. Leave us a comment below. Start some conversations. If you're listening, then rate, review, do all the stuff it asks you to do. Please do that. It is quite important because it helps other people find the podcast, which means that we can keep it going and bring you more interviews. So definitely give it a rating and a review and all that sort of stuff. Luke, you got this week's mixtape on the go?
It's on the go already. Yeah. But I've been having fun making it. Bit of specials, the Jam, the Clash, all that kind of stuff. Although I had a bit of a dilemma. I didn't know whether to put Road to Hell Part 1 or Road to Hell Part 2 from Chris Rea.
That's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Do part
we'll
one.
see.
Do part
I'll probably just
Both.
go. Yeah.
Both.
Just do part one.
Well, yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which Cliff Richard are you going to put on?
I'm not. Oh, although I do like Lucky Lips, actually. I like the old stuff. I might put Lucky Lips on there. Okay. Well, I might put a bit of Cliff on. All right.
Dave's tried to squeeze in a Tundi song. So next week we've got something a little bit different. We got Adam Foley. He directed the These Animal Men and Smash documentary, Flawed is Beautiful. So we got him on to chat about making that documentary and meeting Smash and These Animal Men. It's a really interesting one. He's just like a mega fan who ended up making a documentary, it's really cool. He's a really nice guy, and he's got a lot of insight on those two bands and that scene at the time. Definitely tune into that one. It's a really good one. That's it for this one, Dave. We've been a bit
See you in a minute.
lackluster of late. Maybe you could sort of put a bit more.
Yeah, give it
Energy
some
into
welly,
it.
Dave.
Imagine you're in your masturbatarium.
No one else is there. It's just you.
I'm not saying it now.
You've got to. We've got to sit here till you say it. So
You're gonna have to use that lackluster version, Neil. You're gonna have to leave it at that.
oh, okay.
He's not doing it. Look at him,
We've upset Dave.
petulant child. He's furious. Look at that face. He's absolutely livid.
See you in a minute.